She opened the door expecting a neighbor, maybe a delivery. Instead, a teenage girl stood there, holding a folder, shaking slightly, and wearing Naraya's father's eyes. "My name is Rayla," she said. "I think you're my mom." The porch stayed silent. The girl didn't cry. She waited, and just like that, 6 years of questions, doubt, and quiet ache came rushing back, not as a storm, but as a whisper Naraya could no longer ignore. Naraya Cole had never been the type to overreact. She was calm by nature, raised that way. She worked in operations at a private healthcare network in Charlotte. Schedules, quiet hallways, and systems were her comfort zone. She wasn't rich. She didn't care to be. She liked things that made sense. But this? A 16-year-old standing on her doorstep calling her mom. That didn't make sense. And yet, something inside Naraya recognized her before her mind could. "You look like someone I used to know," Naraya finally said, stepping outside and closing the door behind her. Rayla nodded once. "I get that a lot." Her voice was soft, clear, and the way she didn't flinch, that's what got to Naraya. There was no teenage tremble, no begging, just calm, rehearsed honesty. Rayla opened the folder. 2 papers, both from a DNA lab Naraya didn't recognize. One showed her full name. The other, Rayla's mother, daughter, 99.9%. Naraya didn't cry, didn't panic. She sat down on the porch step. Rayla sat beside her, like she already knew she could. Naraya pointed at the scar below Rayla's lip. A small crescent, familiar. "I had one too. When I was a baby," she said. "They told me it was from the forceps, but I always thought maybe I was just born wrong," Rayla replied. That broke something, not loudly, quietly, the same way everything had been quiet since Naraya gave birth 6 years ago. The night she gave birth wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no emergency. Just pressure, then silence, and then the sound of medical voices saying, "We're just going to take him for observation." Naraya passed out before she ever got to hold him. When she woke up, Viola, her mother-in-law, was already in the room, holding the child, smiling. "He has Kellen's ears," Viola said, handing him over too slowly. "You did well." Naraya was too tired to argue, too fogged to think. She looked down at the baby, swaddled tightly, hazel eyes, strong jaw. He was beautiful, but something in her chest stayed still. No spark, no heat, no tears. Later, the nurses told her that first-time moms often feel disconnected at first. "It's normal," they said. "Bonding takes time." She believed them. She had to, because the alternative was unthinkable. Back on the porch, Naraya asked the question she wasn't ready to hear the answer to. "Where have you been all this time?" Rayla shrugged. "Foster care, mostly." I bounced around. Naraya's heart tightened. "No family stepped forward?" "I was listed as deceased at birth." Silence again. Rayla looked ahead, not at her. "They told me my mom died too. Then last year, someone at my group home slipped, mentioned a name, a place. I did some digging, found this address, ran the test twice before I came." She held up the folder again. No tears, no drama, just fact. Naraya felt the shift before she realized she was feeling it. The sharp ache in her stomach wasn't grief. It was clarity. She stood up slowly and said, "Come inside." Rayla hesitated. "I'm not asking if you trust me," Naraya added, "but I want to feed you. You've come a long way." Kyle's toys were in the corner. His photo was on the mantel. 6 years of pretending. 6 years of trying to force herself to feel like a mother to a boy who barely saw her. She didn't hate him. Never did. She fed him, held him when he cried, read stories at night, but she never felt him. And now she knew why. Rayla sat at the table quietly. Naraya made grilled cheese the way her father used to for her. They didn't talk much, but at one point, Rayla asked, "Did you always know something was wrong?" Naraya didn't answer right away. Then she said, "I knew something didn't fit, but I thought the problem was me. If you believe no mother should ever be made to question her instincts, like this video, leave a comment, and stay with us. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about reclaiming what was stolen in silence. The photo on the hallway wall was Kyle's first birthday. Viola had paid for a private photographer. Nerea remembered standing just outside the frame, holding the diaper bag, adjusting Kyle's collar, watching them all pose. She hadn't realized until later that there wasn't a single photo of her with him that day. Not one. She'd been present, but invisible. Now Rayla stood in that same hallway. Her fingers brushed over the frame. Is that him? Nerea nodded once. That's Kyle. He looks older than 6. He's tall for his age. Rayla stepped back. He looks like someone I've seen before. Nerea waited. She didn't rush Rayla. She didn't interrupt the moment. Instead, she quietly opened the linen closet and pulled out a blanket. Not for comfort, but for grounding. Folding things helped her think. It always had. You said they listed you as deceased, she said finally. Who's they? Rayla turned to her. I don't know exactly, but I found a discharge record from the hospital, dated 2 hours after I was born, marked non-viable female. Signed off by someone under the Dern family account. Nerea felt her knees weaken slightly. She steadied herself against the door frame. They paid for the birth. That part's true, but I never saw any of the paperwork. Rayla tilted her head. Would they have needed your signature to release me? Only if I'd been awake. Rayla nodded. That's what I thought. Nerea swallowed hard. She hadn't wanted to believe it, not even when she saw the DNA results. But now the pieces weren't just scattered, they were lining up. Do you remember anything from the hospital? Rayla asked. Nerea looked up. Her eyes locked with the girl's. No, the young woman's. Her daughter. I remember being tired, she said quietly. I remember the nurse taking him, for vitals, they said. I remember waking up, and your father wasn't in the room, but your grandmother was. Rayla's brow tightened. Viola. Nerea nodded. She said something strange, she added after a moment. She said, he's perfect. You did what you were supposed to. Not, you're okay. Not, you made it through. Just that. Rayla's voice dropped. Did he look like you? No. Not even a little. Rayla was quiet for a while. Then she asked, why didn't you check? I wanted to. But every time I brought it up, someone had an answer. Hormones, anxiety. I was told I needed rest, and I believed them. Or, I needed to. Rayla ran her fingers over the corner of the table. I think they counted on that, she said. Nerea didn't argue. She knew the girl was right. Viola had always been strategic. And Kellen? Kellen had always been silent. The truth was, Nerea had never felt chosen. Not by the Dern family. Not by Kellen. Not even by her own child. And now she understood why. She hadn't been holding her child at all. I want to do another test, Nerea said. At a lab I trust. Not because I don't believe you, but because I want to be sure of everything, every detail, no questions left open. Rayla nodded. I already booked it. Tomorrow morning. Nerea looked at her. You did? I knew you'd ask. It's on the east side, not far. For the first time, Nerea's lips pulled into a soft smile. Not because of relief, but because Rayla thought like her, moved like her, prepared like her. You get that from me, she said gently. Rayla blinked, then smiled back, just a little. I figured. They didn't talk much more that night. Nerea gave Rayla her room and took the couch. It wasn't about being polite. It was about offering space, ground, safety. Around 1 a.m., Rayla came back into the living room. I can't sleep, she said. Me neither. Do you still want me here? Nerea sat up. Rayla. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't break. I don't care what paper says, or how late you arrived. You're mine. You always were. Rayla stood still, holding her own elbow. Nerea reached out one hand. Rayla walked over and took it. Neither of them, said another word. She fell asleep on the edge of the couch beside her mother. The next morning, Naraya brewed tea. No sugar, just ginger and lemon. She didn't know Rayla's preferences yet. But she'd learn. They sat at the table like they'd been doing this for years. Kellen texted, "Kyle wants to come by this weekend. Can we talk?" Naraya didn't reply. Not yet. Rayla finished her tea and slid the lab appointment email across the table. "I put your name on file as legal guardian," she said. "You didn't have to do that. I wanted to." They arrived at the lab by 9 a.m. swabs. Signatures, silent stares. The tech looked at them strangely. She probably saw the resemblance before Naraya did. Rayla was calmer than most adults Naraya knew. Maybe because she'd had to grow up too early. Back in the car, Rayla asked if they could stop by the lake before going home. Naraya drove there in silence. They sat by the water for nearly an hour. Then Rayla whispered, "Do you think she ever felt bad about it?" Naraya didn't answer right away. "She doesn't feel bad about anything," she said finally. "Viola only regrets what gets exposed." Rayla nodded. "You'll hear her version soon enough," Naraya said. "I'm ready." They went home. Naraya didn't unpack the day. She let it settle. She cooked dinner. Chicken, brown rice, something clean. Rayla set the table, without being asked. It was the first time Naraya had cooked for someone who watched her do it with trust in their eyes. It felt like breathing after years underwater. When the timer beeped, Rayla sat down and said grace. Quiet, simple. Naraya's throat tightened again. She hadn't heard that sound in years, not since her own mother died. That night, they both slept, and when Naraya woke up the next morning, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt whole. Naraya hadn't stepped foot in the Dern estate in over a year. She'd been avoiding it without realizing it. Even when Kyle had school performances or weekend gatherings, she always asked for meetups somewhere else, a cafe, the garden terrace, sometimes even the park by the community library. Anywhere but that house. The last time she walked through its double glass doors, Viola had commented on her shoes. Modest, practical, she'd said. Like your resume. Kellen had laughed nervously. Now, as Naraya sat in her car in front of that same house with Rayla beside her, she didn't feel fear. Just weight, a long buried weight that had never been named properly. Rayla was quiet in the passenger seat, tracing the leather seam of the armrest with one fingertip. She wasn't nervous. She was watching Naraya. "You okay?" she asked softly. Naraya inhaled once. "I should be asking you that." Rayla shrugged. "I've never met the woman, but I already know her." Naraya almost smiled. "You're too young to be this sharp." Rayla didn't blink. "They made me grow up fast." That landed heavy in the air between them. Naraya reached for the door handle. "Let's get this done." They walked up the stairs together, side by side. Naraya didn't ring the bell. She used her old key. Viola had refused to let them change the locks during her time there. Said family doors don't close. The entryway still smelled like gardenia and polished wood. Still pristine, still sterile. Rayla looked around slowly. "Cold," she murmured. Before Naraya could respond, Viola appeared at the top of the stairs. Her hair pinned, her heels quiet on the marble. "Well," she said, arms folded. "Is this the girl?" Rayla looked directly at her. "Yes. And I'm not here to play polite." Viola's eyes narrowed slightly. Kellen appeared behind her, shirt untucked, no blazer. He looked tired, or maybe he just looked exposed. Naraya stepped forward. "I'm not here for pleasantries either," she said. Viola moved down one step. "Then let's stop pretending and speak like adults." Rayla pulled the envelope from her pocket and handed it to Kellen. He hesitated, then opened it. Scanned the results, hands shaking slightly. Silence. "Is this a joke?" he said, barely audible. Rayla responded calmly, "Would you like to run another test? We already did too." Naraya watched him, not for denial, but for reaction. Kellen's lips parted, but no words came out. Viola stepped in. "I did what was necessary." Everyone turned toward her. You did what? Nerea asked, voice steady. I secured this family's future, Viola said. I saw the files. I knew the man you were with before Kellen. There was no man, Nerea said flatly. Viola's voice sharpened. There was a name, on a record, a man who worked maintenance at your building. Nerea blinked once. You went through my past. I vetted it. Rayla's face shifted. Her nostrils flared just slightly. You stole a child, she said. Viola replied, I saved one, and the child I saved now has the best life he could ask for. No, Nerea said. You robbed 2 children of the families that belonged to them. You erased my daughter and handed me a stranger. You didn't save anyone. You mutilated trust. Kellen finally spoke. You knew. Viola turned to him. I did what your father would have done. Kellen took a slow step backward. You said she wasn't fit, Viola said. That she was good-hearted but not prepared. I took that to mean you needed help. I didn't mean this, he whispered. Rayla cut in. You didn't mean anything. That's the problem. She stepped forward, calm and sharp. You stood by while your mother made decisions about my entire existence. You signed things. You accepted silence. Kellen looked down. I thought she was lying. When she first came to the hospital and said the baby didn't feel like hers, I thought it was anxiety. You didn't ask again, Nerea said. I didn't want to create tension. Rayla snorted. Tension was already there. You just chose comfort. Viola finally descended the last step. This changes nothing, she said. Kyle is your son. Rayla's head tilted. He's not her son. He was raised in this house. By you. Not by her. Nerea didn't yell. She didn't cry. She walked toward the glass table by the foyer and placed her house key on it. Then she turned to Kellen. I'm moving out. His eyes widened. What? I'm not asking for custody. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for a discussion. He stepped forward. Nerea. You didn't swap her, she said, but you handed me over. Every time you chose peace over protection, Rayla stayed beside her. Solid, grounded. Viola said nothing. Kellen was frozen. Nerea looked at Rayla. You ready? Rayla nodded once. They walked out together, through the same door Nerea had walked through, years ago in a white dress, trying to convince herself she belonged. This time, she didn't look back. The car ride home was quiet, not tense, not heavy, just quiet in a way that made room for thought. Rayla sat reclined slightly, seatbelt clipped, one hand tucked under her chin. Nerea didn't push conversation. There was no need. Both of them had just walked out of a house built on decisions that neither of them had agreed to. At the next red light, Nerea finally spoke. You handled yourself well in there. Rayla's eyes stayed on the window. I've had practice. Still, I didn't want to go in there to hurt anyone, Rayla added after a pause. I just wanted the lie to stop having power. Nerea understood that more than anyone. They got back to the apartment before dark. The place was still quiet, still smelling faintly of the lavender detergent Nerea used for her weekend cleaning. She noticed things she hadn't before, how lived-in the space felt with Rayla around. Rayla moved like someone who'd never been allowed to take up space, but was now cautiously testing the edges of what home could feel like. Hungry? Nerea asked. Rayla gave a half nod. A little. Nerea made something simple, lemon rice and pan-seared chicken. Comfort food without explanation. Rayla helped again. She didn't hover, didn't ask where things were. She opened drawers intuitively, like her body knew things her memory didn't. After dinner, they sat on the balcony with mugs of warm water and lemon. No sugar, no frills. Rayla broke the silence this time. He didn't defend me. Nerea didn't pretend not to know who he was. No, I didn't need him to. But it still said a lot. Nerea nodded. Rayla looked over at her. Did he ever defend you? Not once. That truth didn't sting as much as it used to. Saying it now felt like finally pulling out a splinter. He let her control everything, Nerea added. Said he didn't want conflict, said I was overreacting, said I was hormonal, said I should let his mother help, since she'd done it all before. Rayla didn't speak, but her eyes hardened slightly. She handled the baby shower, Naraya said, picked the theme, the guest list, rewrote my birth plan, and sent it directly to the hospital without asking me. She did all that? Naraya nodded. And when I found out, Kellen just told me not to ruin the atmosphere. Rayla shook her head. I'm trying not to hate him. I don't hate him. Then what do you feel? Naraya looked up at the night sky for a moment. I feel tired of explaining what I deserve to people who never asked what I wanted. That stayed in the air between them. Rayla didn't respond. She didn't need to. They understood each other now, because no one had explained to either of them what they deserved. They'd had to find out by walking through it. Later that night, Rayla sat on the floor beside Naraya's bed. Not because she didn't want the bed, but because she wanted closeness. She sat with her knees pulled up, hoodie over her head, a small notebook in her lap. Naraya leaned on one elbow. What are you writing? Rayla turned the notebook slightly so she could see. A list. It wasn't long. Things I know. I was born. Someone wanted me gone. Someone else didn't give up. I'm here. Naraya swallowed. That last part's my favorite, she said. Rayla looked over. Mine too. The next morning came with an email notification from the second lab. The results were there. Naraya opened it without ceremony. She already knew what it would say. Still, seeing it written again. Parent match, 99.999, 8% legal guardian. Naraya Cole biological relationship. Mother, she didn't cry. But she did reach across the table and place her hand over Rayla's. Rayla looked at her. No questions. Just a quiet, small nod. I'd like to change my last name, she said softly. To Cole. Rayla hesitated. Not because I don't want to remember where I've been, but because I want to belong somewhere on purpose. Naraya smiled gently. You already do, Rayla whispered, but I want it, in writing. They spent the afternoon at the county office filling out the forms. Rayla Cole. It didn't need to match anyone else's name in that hospital file. It only needed to match her identity now. Afterward, they walked out to the car and sat in the lot for a while. Rayla tapped the dashboard twice, then said, Do you think he'll fight it? Kellen? She nodded. I don't think he has the energy to fight anything, Naraya said. He'll probably ask to meet. Rayla shifted. Would you let him? Only if you're comfortable. I don't hate him, she said again, more to herself than anyone. But I'm not sure I want to make space for him right now. That's fair. And her? Naraya didn't hesitate. She doesn't exist to us. Rayla leaned her head back. Good. They drove home with the windows down for the first time. It wasn't symbolic. It was just warm. But it felt new, like something opening. That night, Naraya pulled out a photo box she hadn't touched in years. Inside were old prints from her childhood, her graduation, and the few pictures she'd managed to keep from Kyle's early years. Rayla sat on the couch beside her, thumbing through the stack. Is this your mom? Naraya nodded. She passed when I was 19. She looks like she didn't take nonsense from anyone. She didn't. She would have liked me. She would have adored you. Rayla held the photo a little longer. Can I keep this one? For my room? Naraya blinked. You already have a room? Rayla smiled. I'm claiming one. Feels right. Then it's yours. They sat quietly for a while. Then Rayla said, Thank you for not making me feel like a burden. You're the opposite. Rayla tilted her head. What's the opposite of a burden? Naraya looked at her. Purpose, she said. Rayla didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her eyes filled with something she didn't let fall. And Naraya didn't mention it. She simply stayed close, shoulder to shoulder, until the moment passed. If you believe no child should have to earn the love they were born deserving, like this video, comment with A if Rayla already feels like family to you, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more powerful moments like this. The email arrived late Friday afternoon. Subject, weekend time with Kyle from Kellen Dern to Neria Cole. Kyle's been asking about you. He wants to visit. I'd like to bring him over this weekend, if you're okay with that. Neria stared at the screen for a long time before responding, not because she didn't know what to say, but because she knew exactly what she needed to mean. She typed one sentence. You're welcome to bring him by Saturday at 3. Please let him know this is a visit, not a transfer. She didn't add warmth, didn't remove it either. It was neutral, controlled, like the way Kellen had handled her heart for years, like something fragile he never took the time to understand. Rayla read the email over her shoulder. You sure about this? No, Neria said, but he's still a child, and he never chose any of this. Rayla leaned back against the kitchen counter. I don't blame him. But I don't trust him either. Neria nodded. You don't have to. Saturday came quietly. Neria didn't prep anything fancy. She made popcorn, set out a deck of Uno cards, pulled the softest throw blanket from the linen closet and draped it on the couch. Not because it looked nice, but because it felt like warmth. At 3:02 p.m. the knock came. Kyle stood at the door. 6 years old, taller than most kids his age, hair neatly combed. Viola's influence still lingered in his pressed collar and polished shoes. Kellen stood behind him, hands in pockets. Hi, Kyle said shyly. Neria knelt to his level. Hey, sweetheart. He didn't hug her, but he looked at her longer than he used to, studying her face like it was the first time. This your place? He asked. Neria smiled gently. Yep, want to come in? Kyle stepped inside, slowly, eyes scanning everything. Rayla stood up from the couch. Kyle's gaze landed on her. He blinked. You look like, he began, then stopped. Rayla smiled, soft and open. We're figuring it out. Kyle looked back at Neria. Is she your friend? She's my daughter. Kyle didn't say anything right away. He walked to the arm of the couch, sat down, and looked at the popcorn bowl like it was foreign. I thought I was your kid, he mumbled. Neria walked over slowly and sat across from him. You were raised with me. You lived in my home. I fed you. I read you bedtime stories. I never stopped loving you, but I wasn't the one who gave birth to you. Kyle looked at his lap. I don't look like you. Neria reached over and touched his hand. No, you don't. And that's okay. You still matter. He didn't pull away, but he didn't meet her eyes either. Rayla sat beside him, not too close. Just enough. I didn't know either, she said gently. Till last week. Kyle looked at her. Did you cry? No, I froze. He tilted his head. Me too. They played cards after that. Rayla taught Kyle how to keep score. Neria stayed quiet and watched them both. The way Rayla held back just enough to let Kyle win a few rounds. The way Kyle looked at her sideways every time she laughed. By the third game, he leaned into her side. Not with full trust, but with curiosity. Kellen stayed by the door, like he didn't know where to stand in a house no longer his. Eventually, Neria walked over to him. You can sit, she said. He nodded, didn't move. Is this where you live now? He asked. For now, maybe longer. He glanced around. It's peaceful. It's honest. Kellen rubbed his neck. I didn't know she would do it. I swear. You didn't ask either, Neria replied. I thought you were going through postpartum. No. You thought it was easier not to get involved. He didn't deny it. Neria folded her arms. You let her name our child's school, doctor, and weekend plans without ever asking me what I thought. I thought you didn't want to fight. I didn't, but I would have if I knew I wasn't just fighting for voice. I was fighting for truth. Kellen looked at the living room. Kyle was now giggling at something Rayla whispered. She's good with him, he said. She didn't have to be. But she is. He swallowed. I don't want to lose both of them. You already did. That silenced him. Neria didn't say it with venom. It wasn't revenge. It was just the truth. She added quietly, but you can still choose to be decent. Don't make him pick sides. Don't let her poison him like she tried to poison us. I'll keep her away. You should have done that years ago. Kellen didn't argue, didn't defend. Instead, he said, I still want to be in Rayla's life, if she'll allow it. That's not mine to decide. I know. You'll have to earn her time. He nodded. I'm willing. We'll see. They stayed like that for a while. Two people who used to be something, now standing in the debris of what had been built on silence. At 6:30, Kyle yawned. Rayla helped him into the blanket. Nerea made warm milk the way he liked it, with a tiny bit of cinnamon and nothing else. As she handed it to him, he said, Why didn't you tell me before? She crouched down. Because I didn't know. But I do now. Are you still? Nerea touched his cheek. I'm not your birth mother, but I'm someone who will always care, and you'll always have a place here when you want it. He didn't say anything, but he leaned into her hand and closed his eyes for a moment. Then he looked at Rayla. Are we like siblings? Rayla thought for a beat, then said, We're connected. Doesn't always need a label. Kyle nodded once. Kellen took his hand and walked him to the door. He turned back once before leaving. Can I come back next week? Nerea smiled. Yes, any time. He walked out. The door clicked shut. Rayla exhaled. That went better than I expected. He's still figuring things out, Nerea said. But he's not the one who lied. He's the one who lived in the middle. Rayla looked at her. Like you. Nerea nodded. Exactly like me. Sunday morning came with stillness. No meetings, no visitors, no messages from Kellen. Just quiet. Nerea rose early and cooked breakfast. Eggs, wheat toast, and fruit. Nothing special, but it smelled like comfort, like routine, like a home being redefined. Rayla shuffled into the kitchen wearing socks and a stretched hoodie Nerea had offered her days earlier. She didn't ask questions. She just grabbed a plate and sat across from her mother. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Rayla asked, What happens next? Nerea looked at her. With who? Kyle, Kellen, all of it. Nerea considered that. I don't know, she said finally, but we don't have to figure out everything right now. Rayla took a bite of toast. Feels like we should. I used to think that too, Nerea replied, that I had to solve every piece of the puzzle before I could breathe. But now, I think we deserve space, not solutions. Rayla nodded slowly. I like that. After breakfast, they rearranged the second bedroom, the one that used to be a storage room, now turning into Rayla's. They worked quietly. No dramatic makeover, just folding clothes, organizing drawers, setting up books in a neat row. By noon, it already looked like someone lived there. When Rayla set the framed photo of Nerea's mother on the nightstand, she asked, What would she have thought of all this? Nerea smiled softly. She would have told me I waited too long to stop being nice. Rayla snorted. Sounds like my kind of woman. She was tough. Didn't believe in silence when something needed to be said. Rayla looked around the room. Do you think I'm too harsh? Nerea turned to her. You're clear, and clear people make unclear people uncomfortable. Rayla sat on the bed. Good. I don't want to shrink anymore. You won't have to. Not here. That stayed in the air, something between a vow and a truth. Later that afternoon, Nerea's phone buzzed again. Kellen. She didn't answer at first, but Rayla glanced over. You should take it. Doesn't mean you owe him anything. Nerea stepped onto the balcony and picked up. Hello. Hey, Kellen said. His voice was careful, measured. She okay? He asked. She's grounded, strong, smarter than both of us combined. I believe it. Silence. I wanted to ask something, he said next. I'm listening. I talked to Kyle. He wants to see her again. Rayla? Yeah. Nerea waited. I know it's early, he added, and I know there's history, but I just wanted to ask if we could all try. Nerea didn't say no, but she didn't say yes either. She'll decide. You should ask her. I will. Another pause. "Have you told anyone else?" he asked. "About what?" "About what Viola did." Neraya stepped further into the sunlight. The breeze tugged at the curtain behind her. "I don't need to shame her to feel whole. That's her weight to carry. She's still trying to spin it," he said. "Of course she is. That's what people like her do. They rewrite the narrative. But it doesn't change the facts. She's talking about taking legal steps." "She won't," Neraya said simply. "She's not brave, just loud." Kellen didn't disagree. "I want to do better," he said quietly. "Not just words. I want to show up. Then stop asking me what I'll allow and start asking what you can do." "What can I do?" Neraya thought about that. "Stop pretending neutrality is noble. Start teaching your son what real apology looks like. And don't expect a pat on the back for showing up late. I understand." "I hope so." She ended the call without another word. Inside, Rayla was sitting on the couch, reading, not pretending not to listen, just giving space. "How bad was it?" she asked. "Honest," Neraya said. "Which is a first." Rayla closed the book. "Do you want him back?" Neraya didn't answer immediately. "No," she said finally. "I want my peace, and I've already got that." Rayla nodded. "Good." That evening, they went for a walk. Not far, just a loop around the neighborhood, past a bakery, a small park, and the mailbox clusters with chipped paint. Rayla asked about Neraya's childhood. Neraya answered freely. About summer camps, her first job at the public library, the year she sprained her ankle dancing at a cousin's wedding. Rayla laughed easily, soaking up the pieces of a life that could have been hers all along. They passed a couple with a stroller. Rayla watched them briefly, then turned to Neraya. "Do you regret not finding me sooner?" Neraya exhaled. "Every day. But I'm here now." "Yes, and I won't lose you again." Rayla looked up. "I believe you." That night, after Rayla fell asleep, Neraya sat in the living room alone and stared at the DNA folder on the table, not out of disbelief, but out of the need to never forget. That paper wasn't just science. It was the receipt of 6 stolen years. She didn't light a candle or cry. She simply folded the paper, placed it in a drawer marked important documents, and closed it softly. Then she picked up her phone, not to text Kellen, not to scroll. She opened her notepad app and wrote 4 words, "Start again, with truth." Then she turned off the lights. And for the first time in years, Neraya Cole slept through the night. Neraya stood in line at the pharmacy on Monday afternoon, picking up a refill for her iron supplements. The cashier recognized her. Most people in the neighborhood did. But something was different now. Not in how they treated her, but in how she carried herself. There was no more looking down, no more polite shrinking. She didn't have time for that anymore. Back home, Rayla was on the phone with the county records office, following up on the status of her name change. She had the paperwork spread out on the table, a sticky note trail mapped like a battle plan. Neraya entered and held up the pharmacy bag. "You're on hold?" she asked. 30 minutes and counting," Rayla said, rolling her eyes. "Bureaucracy is undefeated." Neraya smirked. "You'll win. You're more stubborn." Rayla looked up. "I learned from the best." They shared a smile before Rayla turned back to the call. Neraya moved into the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. But her mind wasn't on hydration. It was still on what Kyle had said the day before. "Can I come back next week?" It echoed quietly, not because she didn't want him there, but because she knew every visit would come with the weight of what wasn't said at Viola's house. Later that evening, her phone buzzed again. "Kyle, via Kellen's phone. Can Rayla come to my class presentation Friday? We're doing family tree stuff." Neraya stared at the message for a long time. It was a simple ask, sweet even. But layered under it was a truth that Viola would hate, that Kyle now saw Rayla as part of his family. She called Kellen instead of replying by text. He picked up after 2 rings. "I figured you'd call," he said. "Did he write that himself?" "He did. I asked if he wanted to invite me too, and he said no offense, but he only wanted the girls." Neraya couldn't help it. She chuckled. "That sounds like him." Kellen's tone softened. He said she listens. That she explained things in a way that didn't make him feel stupid. She doesn't see him as a burden. That's rare in your family. I know. There was a beat of silence. He wants her there, Kellen added. But only if she's comfortable. Neraya didn't answer right away. She looked over at Rayla, who was now off the call and flipping through a small family journal she'd begun writing. She was sketching a family tree, not one based on genetics, but on moments, names of people who had shown up for her, even if just once. A mentor from a group home, a social worker who listened, and now, Neraya, circled twice, underlined. She'll be there, Neraya said into the phone, but I'll go too. Kellen didn't argue. He just said, that's fair. The school was an old red brick building with wide windows and a cheerful green fence. It looked like stability. Kyle waited outside in a clean shirt and sneakers that still had the tags tucked inside. His face lit up when he saw them. Rayla, he waved. She smiled and waved back. Hey, kid. You came. I said I would. He looked at Neraya next. Can you help me carry my poster inside? Of course. They walked in together. The classroom was noisy but warm. Other kids showed off their glued-down family trees. Some had parents. Some had grandparents. One boy had a laminated photo of his goldfish taped on as emotional support cousin. Kyle's project sat on the back table. 3 names at the top, Kyle Dern, Neraya Cole, and Rayla Cole. Beneath them were branches of questions. Who helps me when I'm scared? Who makes me laugh? Who do I want to be like? Next to each, he had drawn small stick figures. Rayla's stick figure had braids. Neraya's had a big heart on her chest. Rayla stared at it for a long time. You okay? Neraya asked quietly. Rayla nodded, but her throat tightened. She didn't cry. She just reached out and smoothed the edge of the poster gently. Kyle turned to them. You like it? It's perfect, Rayla said. The teacher gathered the parents and gave a short, kind speech about how family looks different for every child. She didn't name anyone, but her glance at Kyle's board lingered. At the end, each child stood and explained their tree. Kyle spoke without fear, without a stutter. He introduced Rayla as his maybe not sister, but someone who gets me, and introduced Neraya as the person who knows when something's wrong without me having to say it. When he sat back down, the room clapped softly. No one clapped louder than Rayla. On the way home, he asked if he could ride in their car instead of with Kellen. Neraya hesitated, but Rayla looked at her and nodded. Sure, she said. Seatbelt. In the back seat, Kyle told jokes that made no sense and ate half of the granola bar Rayla handed him. He leaned his head on her shoulder by the time they hit the first red light. Do you think I'm weird? He asked. Rayla looked down. Why would I? Because I have 2 moms, kinda. And no one else in class does. You're not weird, Rayla said. You're rare. Kyle smiled. I like that word. Good, Rayla whispered. Keep it. When they pulled into the driveway, Kyle was asleep in the back seat. Rayla turned down the music and sat still for a moment, watching him. He's starting to open up, she said quietly. Neraya nodded. He's always been thoughtful. He just didn't have anyone who slowed down long enough to listen. Rayla rested her chin on her hand, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest. I don't think I expected to like him this much. You don't have to explain it. I know, she said, but I want to. She turned slightly toward her mother. I thought I'd be angry, like deep down, like I'd resent him, because he had what I didn't. A home, security, a mom, but he didn't have a mom. Not really. Rayla looked at her, then back at Kyle. No, she said softly. He had someone pretending to know how to love him. And that's worse. They let him sleep a few more minutes before Neraya reached back gently. Sweetheart, you're home. Kyle stirred, eyes fluttering open. Did I miss the ending? Rayla smiled. Nope. You just hit pause. He rubbed his eyes. Can I stay for dinner? Neraya turned to Rayla. Rayla gave a small nod. Yeah, you can stay. Inside. Kyle kicked off his shoes and made himself at home faster than ever before. He went straight to the fridge, pulled out apple slices, and reached for the peanut butter on the shelf he used to need help with. Rayla leaned against the doorframe watching him. "He's different here," she whispered. "He's freer." They cooked together. Kyle stirred the rice. Rayla seasoned the chicken. Naraya chopped vegetables with the speed of someone trying to focus on something other than how full her kitchen suddenly felt. Kyle talked about school, how he hated long division, how someone got a pencil stuck in the ceiling again. Rayla laughed. "That's talent." Kyle grinned wide. "I know, right?" They sat down at the small round table. Kyle bowed his head. Rayla followed suit. Naraya blinked, then did the same. After the quiet amen, Kyle dug in. Halfway through his plate he asked, "Do you think Grandma knows I saw the project?" Naraya's fork paused. "What do you mean?" "She came over last night. She asked if I'd talked to you since the school thing." Rayla's jaw tightened. "What did she say?" Naraya asked gently. "She said I should be careful what I call family, that some people are only around because they feel guilty." Naraya's stomach dropped. "She said that?" Kyle nodded. "But I told her that's not true. I told her Rayla's my friend, and I like her. And I picked her." Rayla stared at her plate, not blinking. "She said I'd understand when I got older," Kyle added. Naraya exhaled slowly. "Did your dad say anything?" "He told her to stop." That surprised her. But Kyle wasn't finished. "He told her she didn't get to decide what I needed anymore." Rayla looked up. "Your dad said that?" "Yeah." Naraya exchanged a glance with Rayla. They both silently acknowledged the shift. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. After dinner, Kyle helped clear the plates. Then he sat on the couch, watching a nature documentary with his head tucked under Rayla's arm. She didn't ask him to move. She didn't flinch. Naraya watched them, heart full and sore at the same time. At 8:30, Kellen arrived to pick him up. Kyle groaned. "Do I have to?" "You get to come back Friday," Rayla said. "Promise?" "Promise." Kyle hugged Naraya without being asked, then turned to Rayla. "Don't forget to keep my drawing." "I won't." He waved at them both as he left. The door clicked shut. And still, the warmth remained in the room. Rayla turned to Naraya. "She's going to keep trying, isn't she?" "Viola?" Rayla nodded. "Yes," Naraya said. "But we don't have to keep responding. She's going to hate that more than anything." "Exactly." Rayla picked up Kyle's drawing from the table. It was a scribbled picture of the three of them on a park bench, stick figures holding ice cream. He'd labeled them clearly. "Me Mom Rayla." Rayla stared at the word, Mom. "That doesn't bother you?" Naraya shook her head. "You've lived through people forgetting you existed. If being called Mom makes you feel visible, I want you to have it." Rayla looked at her. "No," she said softly. "That title belongs to you. I've never needed it more than I need you." The words didn't rush. They landed like a truth she'd been waiting to say. Naraya walked over and placed a hand on her daughter's cheek. "You'll always have me." Rayla nodded, voice catching. "Good." That night, they slept better than they had all week. No calls, no fear, no pretending, just rest in a home that finally felt like it belonged to them both. Viola Dern didn't knock. She never had. At exactly 9 a.m. on Monday, she walked into Kellen's townhouse with the same clipped heels and pressed silk she wore to charity brunches. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes moved fast, scanning for signs of control lost. Kellen was seated at the kitchen island, pouring cereal into Kyle's bowl. Kyle, still in pajamas, looked up mid-chew and froze. "Grandma?" he asked. "Hello, sweetheart," Viola said with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "You didn't answer my call last night." "I was tired." Kellen didn't greet her. She turned to him instead. "We need to talk." Kyle glanced between them. "Upstairs," Kellen told him softly. "Grab your workbook. I'll help you after." Kyle left reluctantly. The second the door clicked shut, Kellen stood. "You don't walk in here anymore." Viola raised a brow. "You gave me a key, and I'm asking for it back." She stared at him. Excuse me? You don't get to make decisions here. Not about Kyle, not about Nerea, not about Rayla. Viola placed her purse on the counter with precise force. Let me remind you, she said coldly, that everything you have, your business seed money, this home, even the connections that kept your firm afloat during the pandemic, came from me. Kellen didn't flinch. That's true. And now I'm repaying you by setting boundaries. You sound rehearsed. I sound free. Viola's expression cracked for the first time. I did what I had to do, she said. You stole a child. I protected my legacy. You murdered a newborn's identity. Viola stepped closer. She was going to be raised in a 2-bedroom apartment by a woman who barely had health insurance. She was going to be raised by her mother. She was going to ruin our line. You don't have a line. You have a reputation. And it's rotting. She slapped him. Hard, but he didn't move. I deserved that years ago, he said calmly. Not now. Now, I just feel sorry for you. Viola's eyes burned. You think this ends with you defending her? I'm not defending Nerea, he said. I'm holding myself accountable. I'll go to court. For what? To claim the granddaughter you declared dead? Viola faltered. Kellen stepped forward. Don't test me. Because for once in your life you'll lose. Viola grabbed her purse and stormed out. As the door slammed shut, Kyle came down the stairs quietly. She was mad. She was wrong, Kellen corrected. Kyle bit his lip. You're really not going to let her come back? No. Kyle nodded. Okay. He didn't argue, didn't whine, just accepted it like he'd been waiting for it to happen all along. Back at Nerea's apartment, the air smelled like cinnamon. Rayla was baking, not because it was a special occasion, but because she wanted to. She cracked eggs without thinking, measured flour by instinct. She played music softly from her phone, low enough that it didn't compete with the quiet thoughts swirling in her head. Nerea walked in, setting her keys in the bowl by the door. What's the occasion? Rayla shrugged. Control. Nerea chuckled. Fair. They moved around each other in practiced rhythm. Rayla didn't have to ask where the baking sheets were anymore. Nerea didn't have to explain the oven's finicky middle rack. When the timer beeped, Rayla pulled the muffins out, golden, soft, with just enough crisp on top. She placed them on a wire rack and leaned against the counter. I talked to the school today, she said. Oh. I asked about volunteer opportunities. Nerea raised a brow. I'm not trying to play mom, Rayla added. But I want to be present. That's your right, Nerea said. And your heart. Rayla sat down. Do you think I'm stepping on anything? No, Nerea said without hesitation. You're stepping into something. And it's about time. Rayla looked relieved. You're not replacing anyone. You're becoming who you were never allowed to be. Rayla looked down at her hands. Sometimes I still feel like a guest here. You're not. I know. But it's hard to unlearn being temporary. Nerea walked over and sat beside her. You're not temporary. You're home. Rayla nodded slowly. The smell of cinnamon wrapped around them like proof. Viola Dern didn't knock. She never had. At exactly 9 a.m. on Monday, she walked into Kellen's townhouse with the same clipped heels and pressed silk she wore to charity brunches. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes moved fast, scanning for signs of control lost. Kellen was seated at the kitchen island, pouring cereal into Kyle's bowl. Kyle, still in pajamas, looked up mid-chew and froze. Grandma, he asked. Hello, sweetheart, Viola said with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. You didn't answer my call last night. I was tired. Kellen didn't greet her. She turned to him instead. We need to talk. Kyle glanced between them. Upstairs, Kellen told him softly. Grab your workbook. I'll help you after. Kyle left, reluctantly. The second the door clicked shut, Kellen stood. You don't walk in here anymore. Viola raised a brow. You gave me a key, and I'm asking for it back. She stared at him. Excuse me? You don't get to make decisions here. Not about Kyle, not about Nerea, not about Rayla. Viola placed her purse on the counter with precise force. "Let me remind you," she said coldly, "that everything you have, your business seed money, this home, even the connections that kept your firm afloat during the pandemic, came from me." Kellen didn't flinch. "That's true. And now I'm repaying you by setting boundaries. You sound rehearsed." "I sound free." Viola's expression cracked for the first time. "I did what I had to do," she said. "You stole a child. I protected my legacy. You murdered a newborn's identity." Viola stepped closer. She was going to be raised in a 2-bedroom apartment by a woman who barely had health insurance. She was going to be raised by her mother. She was going to ruin our line. "You don't have a line, you have a reputation. And it's rotting." She slapped him. Hard. But he didn't move. "I deserved that years ago," he said calmly. "Not now. Now, I just feel sorry for you." Viola's eyes burned. "You think this ends with you defending her?" "I'm not defending Neraya," he said. "I'm holding myself accountable. I'll go to court." "For what?" "To claim the granddaughter you declared dead." Viola faltered. Kellen stepped forward. "Don't test me, because for once in your life, you'll lose." Viola grabbed her purse and stormed out. As the door slammed shut, Kyle came down the stairs quietly. "She was mad." "She was wrong," Kellen corrected. Kyle bit his lip. "You're really not going to let her come back?" "No." Kyle nodded. "Okay." He didn't argue, didn't whine, just accepted it like he'd been waiting for it to happen all along. Back at Neria's apartment, the air smelled like cinnamon. Rayla was baking, not because it was a special occasion, but because she wanted to. She cracked eggs without thinking, measured flour by instinct. She played music softly from her phone, low enough that it didn't compete with the quiet thoughts swirling in her head. Neria walked in, setting her keys in the bowl by the door. "What's the occasion?" Rayla shrugged. "Control." Neria chuckled. "Fair." They moved around each other in practiced rhythm. Rayla didn't have to ask where the baking sheets were anymore. Neria didn't have to explain the oven's finicky middle rack. When the timer beeped, Rayla pulled the muffins out, golden, soft, with just enough crisp on top. She placed them on a wire rack and leaned against the counter. "I talked to the school today," she said. "Oh." "I asked about volunteer opportunities." Neria raised a brow. "I'm not trying to play mom," Rayla added, "but I want to be present." "That's your right," Neria said. "And your heart." Rayla sat down. "Do you think I'm stepping on anything?" "No," Neria said without hesitation. "You're stepping into something, and it's about time." Rayla looked relieved. "You're not replacing anyone. You're becoming who you were never allowed to be." Rayla looked down at her hands. "Sometimes I still feel like a guest here. You're not." "I know. But it's hard to unlearn being temporary." Neria walked over and sat beside her. "You're not temporary. You're home." Rayla nodded slowly. The smell of cinnamon wrapped around them like proof. By Wednesday afternoon, Kyle was back on the couch, feet curled under him, sketching on the back of a paper grocery bag with a half-dry marker. Rayla was next to him, reading a book, occasionally glancing down to admire whatever messy lines he'd drawn. "I think this is a dragon," he said, holding up the drawing. Rayla tilted her head. "Looks like a washing machine." Kyle giggled. "It breathes laundry fire." "Terrifying." He grinned. "Can we hang it on the fridge?" Rayla nodded. "You're officially part of the rotation." Neria stepped out of the hallway, drying her hands with a towel. "Who's joining the fridge club?" she asked. Kyle proudly held up the wrinkled paper. "Me." Neria walked over, took a magnet, and pinned the picture between a school flyer and Rayla's note-to-self reminder that said, "Stay whole." Kyle stood back and admired it, like it belonged in a museum. Later, while Kyle was in the shower and the house was quieter, Rayla sat across from Neria at the table. "I want to take him to the museum next week," she said. "They have that build-your-own-animal exhibit." "I thought it'd be fun." Neria nodded. "Good idea. Just make sure it's on his dad's time. Rayla raised a brow. I mean it, Naraya said. We don't overstep. We just live honestly. Let him see the difference. Rayla leaned back in her chair. Do you think Kellen regrets it? Which part? All of it. Naraya thought for a moment. I think he regrets trusting silence more than truth. That's a lonely lesson. Rayla nodded. I hope he learns it well. Kellen, on the other side of the city, was reading a letter Naraya had sent him. Not an email, a handwritten letter. Inside, it said everything she hadn't said to him during the years they were married. That she had spent more time explaining her feelings than having them. That his loyalty to comfort had cost her the ability to believe in her own instincts. That she no longer carried resentment, only distance, a distance earned. At the end, she wrote, You were never my enemy. You were my silence, and silence, I've learned, is not neutral. Kellen folded the letter and placed it inside the drawer next to his bed. He didn't cry, but for the first time, he didn't defend himself either. On Friday morning, Kyle wore the shirt Rayla had picked for him, blue with cartoon tigers. He looked proud walking into school with Rayla on one side and Naraya on the other. Kellen met them by the gate. Kyle ran up to him. Dad, did you bring the cookies? In the car, Rayla smirked. Bribery works every time. Kellen smiled at her. Genuine, not forced. Thank you, he said. For not turning him against me. Rayla crossed her arms. He doesn't need me to tell him what people are. He watches and remembers. Kellen's face fell slightly, but he didn't challenge it. Instead, he asked, Can we walk him in together? Rayla glanced at Naraya. Naraya gave a small nod. The three adults walked through the school's side gate, side by side, Kyle bouncing. Ahead of them, like the past 6 years, hadn't fractured anything at all. Inside, Kyle waved and took off toward his classroom. Kellen stopped at the hallway corner. I won't make this awkward, he said, but I want to be consistent. I want to help. Help by listening, Naraya said, and speaking when it matters. Kellen turned to Rayla. Would you be okay with me reaching out? Not for obligation, just to understand you better. Rayla looked at him, long and hard, then said, Try. Kellen nodded. Not with relief, but with respect. They went their separate ways in the parking lot. That night, Naraya lit one candle, not for symbolism, for scent, cinnamon and vanilla. Rayla was already on the couch, Kyle asleep in his makeshift fort beside her. Naraya sat down and handed her a folded note. Rayla opened it and read quietly. You were never missing. You were buried in someone else's lie, but now you're home. And I will never let you be invisible again. Rayla looked up, throat tight. Thank you, she whispered. You don't have to thank me, Naraya said. You were always mine. They sat in silence for a while. Not to fill the space, but to honor it. Kyle stirred once in his sleep. Rayla reached down and covered him with a blanket, and the night held them all, finally whole. If you believe silence isn't harmless, and that every child deserves to feel seen, like, comment, and share this story. There's power in facing the truth, even when it arrives late. Kyle showed up Friday evening with a backpack full of snacks and a giant, rolled-up poster that read, Rayla's room. No loud adults allowed. Rayla opened the door and blinked at the sign. What is this? Kyle grinned. It's a warning. Kellen helped me draw it. Naraya looked over his shoulder and raised an eyebrow. He helped? Kyle nodded proudly. He said it was time I started making my own rules. Rayla gave him a small smirk. Well, rule number 1. You hang that up yourself. Kyle ran to the bedroom, tape already in hand. Naraya turned to Rayla. He's getting bolder, because he knows we'll listen. They didn't say more. They didn't need to. That night, they ordered pizza and watched a documentary on sea animals. Kyle sprawled across the rug with 2 slices and a blanket. Rayla sat cross-legged with her plate balanced on her knee. Naraya curled into the arm of the couch, not as a guest, just as herself. Halfway through, Kyle whispered, Can we go to the aquarium? Rayla looked at Naraya. "I'll check tickets tomorrow," Naraya said. Kyle smiled. "Cool." By 9 p.m. he was asleep again, this time curled at the foot of Rayla's bed with a stuffed turtle Naraya didn't remember owning. Rayla stood in the doorway, watching him breathe. "He's scared to relax at his dad's house," she said. Naraya nodded. "He's still navigating whose space is safe." Rayla whispered. "Ours is." On Saturday morning, Naraya received a call from an unfamiliar number. She let it ring. Then came the voicemail. "This is Margaret Delancey from the Charlotte County Records Office. This is regarding the birth documentation of a minor named Rayla Cole. We're following up on a discrepancy involving a closed file under a different name marked deceased in the same hospital system." Naraya's heart stopped. She hit redial instantly. The woman answered after one ring. "Mrs. Cole?" "Yes." "This is Naraya Cole. I didn't want to leave sensitive information over voicemail, but I believe someone tampered with your daughter's birth record. We've uncovered conflicting death certificates from the hospital tied to your family account." Naraya sat down. "What do you mean conflicting?" "There's a certificate of live birth under Rayla's legal name, timestamped just minutes, before a separate document listing an unnamed female infant marked non-viable. Both entries are tied to the Dern medical policy." Naraya closed her eyes. "Do you have copies? I can send them over by courier or email, whichever you prefer. You should also know, we flagged the original falsified death report for internal investigation. Someone went to great lengths to bury this." Naraya didn't need to guess who. "Email is fine," she said calmly. The woman confirmed the address and ended the call. Naraya sat still for a long time. When she finally looked up, Rayla was standing there. "You heard?" Naraya nodded. "They found it," she said. "The document that said you died." Rayla didn't flinch. "Do I get a copy?" "You'll get everything." Rayla stepped forward and crouched next to her. "This isn't the first time I've learned someone tried to erase me. But it's the first time I feel like I'm finally being seen." Naraya leaned into her. "You'll never be invisible again. Not on my watch." Later that afternoon, they received the email. Attached were both certificates, Rayla's real birth record and the fake death declaration. Naraya printed them both. She placed them side by side on the table. Kyle wandered in, looked at the papers, and frowned. "What's that?" Rayla looked at him. "Proof I wasn't supposed to exist." Kyle tilted his head. "Who'd want that?" Naraya answered without hesitation. "Someone who thought love needed permission." Kyle nodded slowly. "She's not nice." "No," Naraya agreed. "She's not." He walked up to the table, took a crayon, and drew a thick red X across the fake death document. Then he wrote, "Wrong." Rayla blinked at him. He looked up. "You're here." "So they were wrong." She reached out and ruffled his hair. "I'm really starting to like you." Kyle grinned. "Told you." That evening, Naraya made a copy of both papers and dropped them into an envelope. She addressed it to the Dern estate with no note, no threats, no explanation. She mailed it out the next morning. Let them read what they created. Let them sit with it. She no longer needed them to believe the truth. She had already built a life on it. The mailbox at the Dern estate was rarely touched by human hands. Most deliveries went through staff. Packages were logged, letters filtered. But the white envelope marked in bold print, "To whom IT concerns," landed squarely in Viola Dern. His personal stack, bypassed by a new assistant who hadn't yet learned which names to avoid. Viola opened it on instinct. Inside were two documents. One birth certificate, one death certificate, both with Rayla's information, both tied to her account. She froze. For the first time in years, her manicured hands trembled, not out of guilt, but out of fear. Fear of exposure, of consequence, of losing the control she had once called family order. There was no letter, no threat, no request, only proof. She dropped the envelope onto the kitchen counter and walked out of the room, her breath shaky. Back at Naria's apartment, Kyle was painting on cardboard again. He'd started calling his creations truth signs. This one said, "Stay where love ice." He taped it above the entryway with Rayla's help. Neraya took a photo and sent it to Kellen without a caption. He replied with a single word, framed. Rayla sat down beside Kyle and handed him a small notebook. "What's this?" he asked. "It's called a memory journal," she said. "You write what you want to remember, not what you're told to." Kyle flipped through the empty pages. "I like this," he said. Neraya walked in with juice boxes. He used to keep one at preschool, but it was filled with gold stars and teacher notes. Kyle frowned. "I want to put my own stuff in this one." Rayla nodded. "Then it's yours." That afternoon, they went to the park. No strollers, no photo ops. Just sunlight, snacks, and Neraya watching them from a bench. Heart full but alert. At one point, Kyle climbed onto the low jungle gym and called out, "Rayla, look at me." She waved. "I see you." He climbed higher. "Now." "Still see you." Kyle paused, smiling. Rayla said nothing else. She didn't need to. Later that evening, Neraya's phone buzzed. "Kellen." She got the documents. "Neraya." "I know." "Kellen," she called, furious. "Neraya. Let her be." "Kellen." "She said she wants to speak to Rayla." "Neraya." "Absolutely not." "Kellen." "She won't stop." "Neraya." "She doesn't need to stop. She just won't be heard here." Rayla read the messages from across the room. "She thinks I owe her something. She thinks she still owns the narrative." Rayla folded her arms. "What would I even say to her?" "Nothing. But if she comes here?" "She won't," Neraya said. "She doesn't step into spaces she can't control." Rayla considered that. "You sure?" "Yes." Rayla sighed. "Good. Because if she ever did, I wouldn't be diplomatic. I wouldn't want you to be." Around 8:30 that night, Neraya heard the knock. One soft, one sharp. She opened the door and froze. Viola Dern stood there, alone, uninvited. Rayla appeared behind Neraya almost immediately. Viola didn't blink. She looked straight at Rayla. "I came to say something," she said. "No," Neraya cut in. "You came to reclaim control." "I came because I owe her words." "You're years late," Rayla said flatly. Viola held up her hands slightly. "You were never supposed to find your way back," she said. "And yet, here you are." Rayla raised an eyebrow. "That's not an apology." "I don't have one." "Then what is this?" Viola hesitated. "Proof that you were stronger than the lie I created." Rayla stared at her. Cold, steady. "You told the world I didn't exist. I believed you weren't right for this family." Rayla leaned forward slightly. "You were wrong." Viola's eyes didn't drop, but she didn't speak again. Rayla took one step closer. "I want you to remember something," she said. "Every time you wake up in that empty house, every time you pour tea into a cup no one drinks from, you'll know the truth. You erased me on paper, but I'm the one who lived." Viola's mouth tightened. "I never expected forgiveness." Rayla shook her head. "You won't get it, but I hope you get clarity." Viola's shoulders stiffened. She stepped back. She left without another word. Neraya turned to Rayla. "You okay?" Rayla nodded. "I meant every word." "Good." Kyle peeked from the hallway. "Was that Grandma?" Rayla walked over, crouched to his level. "Yes," she said, "but she's not someone we need to invite in anymore." Kyle tilted his head. "Is she mad?" "She's sad," Rayla said simply. "But not because of us. Because of the choices she made." Kyle accepted that answer. He reached for Rayla's hand, and she didn't let go. 3 days passed with no word from Viola. No calls, no messages, no sudden visits. The silence was louder than her presence. Rayla didn't mention it again, not out of fear, but because she'd said what needed to be said. Some people demanded confrontation. Viola had been given one. And it hadn't ended in a scream. It had ended in a door closing. That was louder. On Thursday afternoon, Neraya received a certified letter addressed in elegant handwriting. No return address. She opened it slowly, heart steady, pulse calm. Inside was a check made out to Rayla for $75,000. No memo, no note, just silence in ink. Rayla walked in mid-read. She saw the check, saw the expression on Neria's face and said, "Is that her money?" "Yes. She thinks I'm a transaction. She thinks this will fix the page she tried to rip out." Rayla reached forward, took the check, and without hesitation, ripped it straight down the middle. Then again, and again. The pieces floated like feathers onto the kitchen floor. "That's how much she knows me," she said. Neria said nothing, just knelt and helped her sweep it into the trash. No further words were needed. That evening, Kellen called. "She sent money." "Yes. She never asked me. She never told me." "I believe you." He paused. "Did Rayla accept it?" "She destroyed it." "Of course she did." Kellen sounded different this time. Not defensive, not distant, just tired. "I'm not defending her," he said, "but I know why she did it." "Why?" "Because she doesn't want to lose again. Not her reputation, not her illusion, not even to herself." Neria leaned back in her chair. "She already lost." "I know," he said, "but some people keep performing even when the stage is empty." The next morning, Rayla was at the kitchen table reviewing college program packets. Not because she needed direction, but because she wanted options. Kyle sat beside her, working on a coloring page with laser focus. "What's that one?" Kyle asked, pointing to a booklet. "Psychology," she said. "What's that?" "It's about understanding people, how they think, why they feel what they feel." Kyle tilted his head. "Can I study that too?" "You already are," she said, ruffling his curls. Neria watched from across the room, quietly moved by the ordinary moment. A table, a child, a second chance unfolding right in front of her. Rayla flipped the packet over. "I think I want to work with kids who've been through the system," she said. "Not just give advice, be there, show up." "You'd be good at it," Neria said. Rayla nodded. "I want to be what I didn't have." That sentence stayed with Neria all afternoon. At 5 p.m., Kellen arrived to pick up Kyle for the weekend. Kyle hugged Neria without prompting, hugged Rayla even longer. "Tell me when you get there," she said. "I will." When the door shut, Neria turned to Rayla. "You okay?" "Yeah," but her fingers were twitching slightly. Neria walked over. "What is it?" Rayla hesitated, then said, "Part of me thought she'd keep pushing, that Viola would come harder, say something to him, get him to pull back, threaten custody, something, but she didn't." Rayla looked up. "Why?" "Because she saw you, finally, and she realized she can't erase you twice." Rayla's chest rose, then fell. "I didn't want her silence to feel like a win." "It's not," Neria said. "It's surrender." That night, Rayla stood by the window, watching the streetlights flicker on. She thought about all the years spent feeling like a ghost, all the nights she convinced herself she was replaceable, all the people who told her she was strong because she'd survived. But no one ever said, "You were wronged," until now. Behind her, Neria whispered, "You know, you never had to earn your way back." Rayla turned. "I know," she said, "but I still needed to walk it." Rayla didn't sleep that night. Not from restlessness, from clarity. She sat on the balcony with a throw blanket wrapped around her and a notebook open across her knees. The city buzzed faintly below, muffled by distance. But inside her, everything was sharp. She had lived for so long in temporary homes, filled with whispered rules and assigned smiles. This place, this small apartment with mismatched mugs and cinnamon in the air, had walls that didn't echo. It held her. Neria came out quietly around midnight, 2 mugs in her hands. "Warm milk," she said. "Because I'm cliché like that." Rayla smirked. "I like that about you." They sat side by side. "Couldn't sleep?" Neria asked. "Nope." "Too calm. Want to talk about it?" Rayla hesitated. "I think I've been waiting for someone to tell me it's okay to not want healing to look like forgiveness." Neria didn't flinch. "It is." Rayla stared into her cup. Everyone says I should forgive Viola, that it's for me. But what if what I need isn't peace with her, but distance from everything she stands for? That's not wrong. Rayla looked over. You sure? I'm sure. They were quiet for a while. Then Rayla whispered, I think I'm ready. For what? To call you Mom. Naraya's eyes welled instantly. I wasn't waiting for it, she said softly. I know, Rayla replied. That's why it feels safe. She leaned into her mother's side. I never called anyone that. Not once. Naraya pressed a hand to her back. You don't have to rush it. I'm not rushing, Rayla said. I'm catching up. The next morning, the apartment felt lighter. Rayla moved with more certainty. She hummed in the kitchen. She texted a mentor from her group home to say thank you. She even replied to a community college counselor who had reached out about their social work program. By noon, she had scheduled her enrollment meeting. Naraya beamed when she heard. You sure? I'm sure, Rayla said. I want to help girls who don't have anyone yet. Kyle returned around 3 p.m. with a bag full of drawings and a note from Kellen. Rayla opened it while Kyle was distracted. Thank you for making room for me to grow. He's asking deeper questions now, about truth, about what makes a parent. You've done more than you know. I won't forget it. Rayla folded the note and tucked it behind the fridge magnet Kyle had given her. She didn't need his praise, but she appreciated the effort. Later that evening, Kyle sat on the couch with Rayla while Naraya cooked. He tapped her arm. Can I tell you something? Always. He looked serious. I think I want to be like you. Rayla blinked. Why? You don't yell. You listen. You tell the truth even if it's weird. Rayla leaned in. That's called being honest. Kyle nodded. It makes me feel safe. Rayla's voice softened. That's what I always wanted growing up. Kyle tilted his head. Did anyone make you feel that way? She thought for a moment. Eventually. But I had to wait. Kyle said nothing, just reached for her hand and held it. I don't want you to wait anymore, he whispered. Rayla swallowed hard. Me neither. After dinner, Rayla checked the mail and found another envelope. This one wasn't from Viola. It was from the state. The official name change papers. Rayla Elaine Cole. Stamped. Finalized. She held it up to Naraya with a grin. I'm real. On paper, Naraya hugged her tightly. You were real the whole time, Rayla whispered. Now they have to admit it. If you believe the truth doesn't need permission to exist, like, comment, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories. Because real healing isn't polite. It's honest. And sometimes, it begins the moment someone finally says, I see you. The first Monday of the new month felt like a soft reset. Rayla woke up before the alarm. She dressed in a simple black top, dark jeans, and sneakers that still had some edge left on the soles. On the table sat her new school ID, printed that morning, student, Charlotte Community College, program, social work. She stared at it longer than she needed to. Naraya came into the kitchen with 2 mugs, coffee for herself, lemon water for Rayla. Big day, she said, sliding the glass over. Rayla smiled. Felt like it would never come. Naraya nodded. That's because you lived through 6 years that tried to cancel this one. Rayla exhaled, nodding. And here we are. Kyle, still rubbing his eyes, wandered in from the hallway and climbed into his usual seat. What's today? He asked, still half asleep. Rayla ruffled his curls. My first college class. He perked up. Will you be famous now? Probably not. But will you learn how to help people? That's the plan. Kyle reached into his backpack, pulled out a blue rubber bracelet, and handed it to her. It says, strong. I got it from Ms. Patty when I stopped crying during math. Rayla looked down at the bracelet, then back at him. Can I really keep this? It's for good people. She slipped it onto her wrist. Then I'll earn it again every day. Kyle beamed. The campus was small but solid. Brick walls, wide walkways, benches filled with second-chance students and first-time dreamers. Rayla didn't feel out of place. She felt seen. She walked with quiet confidence. No rushing, no scanning faces for danger, just clarity. Her first class was Introduction to Crisis Response. The professor, a warm woman named Dr. Monroe, took roll call and then opened with a question: "What's the first thing a child needs when their world breaks?" A few students answered, "Food, shelter, a caseworker." Rayla raised her hand. "Someone to believe them," she said. Dr. Monroe paused, then nodded slowly. "Exactly." Meanwhile, Neriah sat at her desk, the scent of citrus from a diffuser cutting through the afternoon air. Her office was small, still part of the health network, but now more flexible, more remote. She received a package around noon. No sender, just her name. Inside was a journal, brown leather, hand-bound. On the first page, in gold ink, were the words, "What you remember matters." No note, no explanation, just the object. She opened to the second page. Rayla's handwriting. "Mom, this is where I'll keep the memories we're making now, page by page, together. So nothing and no one gets to erase them again." Neriah closed her eyes, then smiled. At 3 p.m., Kellen picked up Kyle and brought him to an ice cream shop. They sat outside under a small red umbrella, napkins blowing in the wind, melting vanilla dripping onto fingers. Kyle asked, "Why do people lie when they're scared?" Kellen blinked. "Where's that coming from?" "I just want to know." Kellen took a breath. "Because lying feels easier than telling the truth and watching someone leave." Kyle licked his cone. "Did you lie?" "Yes," Kellen said. "By staying quiet. That's the worst kind of lie." Kyle nodded, taking that in. "Are you scared now?" Kellen looked him in the eyes. "No, I'm learning, like you." Kyle gave a half smile. "Rayla says people change when they stop trying to win." She's right. They didn't say more, but Kellen knew that silence, this time, wasn't a weapon. It was trust. That night, Rayla returned home with her backpack over one shoulder, her eyes bright. Neriah was cooking. "You look alive," she said. Rayla grinned. "I am." They sat down to eat, just the two of them. Kyle was still at Kellen's. Rayla shared stories from class, moments, phrases, quotes. Neriah listened. Halfway through, Rayla reached into her bag and pulled out a folded paper. "I had to write an entry about the person who inspired me to enroll." Neriah blinked. "Me?" "No." Rayla unfolded the paper and placed it down. It read, "I enrolled because I don't want kids like me to go unheard. I enrolled because silence isn't a safe place. I enrolled because the woman who raised me told me that truth is still worth telling, even if no one claps. And I enrolled because I was erased once, and now I write myself back in." Neriah stared at the words, then looked up. "I'm proud of you." "I know," Rayla said. "That's why I didn't need to ask." The next morning, it rained. Not hard, not stormy, just quiet, steady rain. The kind that matched the mood of reflection more than sadness. Rayla stood by the window, sipping tea, watching the water bead on the glass. Her college folder sat on the table, open to her syllabus, but her mind wasn't there. She was thinking about Kyle, about Neriah, about how soft change could feel when it wasn't forced. The doorbell rang. She turned her head, slightly cautious. Visitors were still rare. When she opened it, Kellen stood there, holding Kyle's sketch pad. "Hey," he said. He forgot this. "Said he needs it for art class tomorrow." She stepped back slightly and opened the door wider. "You could have called." "I know. But I wanted to bring it myself." There was a silence that wasn't tense, just weighted with questions neither had asked yet. "Want to come in?" she asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "Only if it's okay." Inside, he wiped his shoes and stayed by the door. Rayla gestured toward the living room. "It's fine." He stepped in, placed the sketch pad on the table, then looked at her. "You look settled." "I am." "Is that peace or distance?" Rayla sat down. "Both." Kellen nodded. "That's fair." She pointed to the chair across from her. "Sit." He did. There was stillness for a moment, not heavy, not hostile, just two people who used to be one thing and now were something different. "I read your letter," he said finally. "The one I wrote in court." "No, the one you left on my porch before Kyle's birthday." Rayla leaned back. "That was a long time ago. It's been in my drawer. I kept rereading it, trying to figure out when I stopped recognizing the person you described, and when I stopped recognizing myself." Rayla watched him quietly. "I didn't lie to you about who I was," she said. "I just believed you were someone else." He nodded. "I think I did too." There was another pause, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Then Kellen cleared his throat. "I'm in therapy now." Rayla raised her brows slightly. He continued, "And not the kind where I go twice and say I've changed. It's real, hard. I'm seeing myself clearly for the first time. Why now?" He looked down. "Because I can't ask for forgiveness if I haven't faced what I did." Rayla's voice stayed steady. "You're not asking for forgiveness, are you?" "No." She nodded once. "Good." Kellen exhaled. "But I want you to know. I want to raise Kyle without repeating the cowardice I showed you. Or him." Rayla folded her arms, still calm. "You're doing better." "Not enough. No, but better." Kellen leaned forward. "He talks about you like you're a lighthouse." Rayla blinked. "What?" He said, "When I'm scared, Mom doesn't even move. That's how I know I'm not in trouble." Rayla smiled gently, not to flatter herself, but because Kyle's heart had survived. That was enough. "I want to be a lighthouse too," Kellen said quietly. Rayla looked at him carefully. "Then stop apologizing to me and start showing up for him, every time. Even when he's mad. Even when he doesn't want to talk. That's how you earn his trust back." Kellen nodded. "I'm not asking to come back," he added. "I know that door closed." "It didn't close," she corrected. "It was never built. We were always walking on glass." That struck him. Rayla stood up. "Kyle has art class tomorrow. If you're picking him up, be there early. He doesn't wait well." Kellen stood too. "I will." He turned to leave, then paused. "Rayla?" She raised a brow. "I admire you now more than I ever did when we were married." Rayla didn't flinch. "Because you never saw me. You only saw what you needed me to be." This time, he didn't argue. He left quietly. Later that week, Rayla stopped by her old neighborhood to drop off a box at the community center. Donations, children's books, extra clothes Kyle had outgrown, and a few sketch pads. The front desk staffer, Marcia, greeted her with wide eyes. "Girl, is that you?" Rayla smiled. "Just dropping these off." Marcia came around the desk and gave her a full hug. "We miss you." "And Kyle, you still baking those oatmeal bars?" Rayla laughed. "Not since school started. You always were the calm in the chaos. You left a hole when you moved." "I filled it with something better," Rayla said. "Myself." Marcia grinned. "That's the quote of the month." As Rayla turned to leave, a little girl ran past her, barefoot, laughing. Her mother chased behind her, tired but smiling. Rayla watched for a second longer than expected. That little girl had a loud laugh, and it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like freedom. She turned and walked out, her pace even. She wasn't running from anything anymore. That night, at home, Kyle came in with a folded piece of paper. Miss Patty said we had to draw our hero. Rayla was cleaning up from dinner. "You draw Spider-Man?" "No." She wiped her hands and looked over. He unfolded the page. It was her. Stick figure, curly hair, big eyes, a giant heart drawn in red. She said, "Heroes wear capes," Kyle explained. But I said, "Mine wears a black top and drinks tea and uses her brave voice." Rayla's throat tightened. She knelt down. "You did?" Kyle nodded. "Because you always stay, even when I make mistakes." Rayla pulled him close. "That's what moms do." "No," he said. "That's what strong people do." She kissed his forehead and quietly slipped the drawing into her journal. Later that night, after Kyle fell asleep, Rayla sat on the porch with Nerea. They didn't say much. The air was cool, the neighborhood still. Rayla turned to her mother. "Do you think it'll always feel this soft?" Naraya looked at her. "No, but when it gets hard again, you'll know what softness is. That's the difference." Rayla nodded slowly. She didn't need more words. She just needed this moment to be real. And it was. That was the quiet win she never thought she'd live to see. 3 months later, the house was quieter now. Not because something was missing, but because peace had moved in. Kyle's school shoes were by the door. A soccer ball rolled lazily near the hallway. And on the fridge, his newest drawing was pinned up with a magnet shaped like a lion. Rayla stirred almond milk into her coffee. She had 25 minutes before the bus would arrive, and Kyle was still upstairs brushing his teeth. Routine, predictable, safe. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Naria. "Reminder, Sunday dinner. Don't come late. Kyle's sweet potato rolls are a must." Rayla smiled and typed a quick reply. Noted, he already asked to make them. Life was moving again, but slower, more deliberate, the way she had always wanted. That afternoon, she picked Kyle up from school instead of letting him take the bus. He ran toward her with his backpack half zipped, his grin stretching ear to ear. "Guess what?" "What?" "I got picked." "For what?" "The mentorship thing. Mr. Lawrence said I'm going to get to visit the high school art lab every other Friday and work with the older kids. He said I'm good enough." Rayla knelt down. "KL, that's amazing. I told him you showed me how to look at stuff differently." She smiled. "You did all that yourself?" He shook his head. "Nope. You started it." On the drive home, Rayla let him talk the whole way. About the girl who beat him in math but couldn't draw a cube. About the art room smell. About how Mr. Lawrence used words like composition and negative space, and Kyle pretended to know what they meant. Rayla laughed. Not politely. Fully. She hadn't laughed like that in years. Later that evening, Kellen called. Not to interrupt, not to talk about himself, just to check in. "Hey," he said when Rayla answered. "Kyle texted me the news. I wanted to say congrats. To both of you. He earned it. I know. He also said he's bringing those oatmeal bars to the art lab." Rayla chuckled. "Tradition. I'll be out of town this weekend. My dad's not doing well, so I'm flying to Kansas. Thanks for letting me know." Kellen paused. "I've been thinking about what you said, about showing up every time. No matter what." She didn't respond. "I want you to know, I'm sticking to that." She nodded, though he couldn't see it. "Take care, Kellen. You too." She ended the call and stood by the window, watching the sky shift from soft blue to early night gray. Kyle was in his room, humming quietly. She remembered the girl she used to be, the one who second-guessed everything, who braced herself for disappointment like it was inevitable. She wasn't that woman anymore. She had boundaries now, a spine, and a smile that came easier. That weekend, she and Kyle walked into Sunday dinner with a glass dish wrapped in foil and a bag of oranges Naraya had asked for. Rayla barely set the food down before her mother pulled her aside. "Baby girl," Naraya said, "you forgot your mail again. They keep sending it here." Rayla raised an eyebrow. "I changed all my addresses. Well, apparently not the bank. Look." She handed over a thick envelope marked personal and confidential. Rayla frowned and opened it. Inside, a letter, a form, and a check. The letter read, "Dear Ms. Rayla Morton, after internal audit and confirmation of finalized proceedings, we are pleased to inform you of your eligibility and approval for the discretionary share associated with the Class C Board's equity transfer. Enclosed, you'll find an initial equity cash-out of $94,200. We recognize this is long overdue. Your contributions and stake were dismissed at the time without appropriate due process. Please find our formal acknowledgement enclosed." Rayla stared at it. "Is that from Kellen's company?" Naria asked. Rayla nodded slowly. "It's from the board. I didn't even apply for anything." "You never needed to." Rayla blinked. Naraya folded her arms. They watched what you built, what you kept afloat, what you lost. They knew. And now they're making it right. I don't even know what to do with this. You'll know. That night, Rayla sat on the edge of her bed with the check in her hand. She could buy a car, replace Kyle's laptop, maybe pay the first semester of college ahead of time. But those weren't the thoughts that stayed. What stayed was the quiet fact that she had been seen. Finally, that without rage, without begging, without revenge, justice still showed up. Soft, but solid. In the morning, she folded the check and placed it inside her old journal, between the page where Kyle's drawing still sat. Then she opened a fresh one. A new page, a new story. And for the first time, she wasn't writing from pain. She was writing from peace. The days moved faster after that. It wasn't the kind of rush Rayla used to feel, the chaos of deadlines, the pressure to keep everyone happy, the silence she swallowed when people crossed lines. No, this was different. It was movement born from clarity, from knowing exactly what mattered, and who didn't. One Friday afternoon, as Kyle worked quietly at the dining table on a still life drawing, Rayla got a call from her attorney. She answered, placing the phone between her ear and shoulder as she folded laundry. Rayla, good afternoon. I wanted to confirm, your final paperwork has been cleared. The equity transfer is now legally under your name. You're also listed as an inactive advisory holder, meaning you have rights to attend quarterly meetings, should you choose. Rayla stopped folding. Wait, attend the meetings? Yes. Kellen amended the advisory structure, said if the board won't reinstate your title, they'll at least hear your voice when you want to speak. Rayla didn't say anything for a long second. Her attorney cleared his throat. You're not obligated, of course. No, I'll go. Her voice was calm, clear, but inside her chest, a quiet thunder stirred. She had never asked to be back at that table, but now that it was offered, she wasn't going to sit there the same way. She was going to sit different. Firmer, freer. 2 weeks later, she walked into the advisory room on the 40th floor, the same floor that once held her name on a draft wall, her notes in, the drawers, her quiet designs stolen and sold without her knowing. But she didn't walk in afraid. She wore soft grey slacks, a crisp shirt, her hair swept into a low bun, and no makeup, no armor. She didn't need it. The moment she entered, silence swept across the table. They hadn't expected her, especially not him. Devereaux Selden, the man who once approved a report suggesting Rayla's input was minimal and non-technical. He looked as if he'd seen a ghost. Rayla nodded slightly and took the empty seat. No one spoke, until Kellen walked in. He paused when he saw her, not with surprise but with quiet respect. He greeted everyone, then sat at the head of the table. Let's begin. The meeting was long. Strategy updates, budget proposals, supply chain risks. It wasn't her world anymore, but her mind still worked in frameworks and patterns. She noticed what they missed, what they exaggerated, and what they completely avoided. Near the end, Kellen said, "Before we close, I'd like to open the floor to our new advisory partner. If she wishes to speak." Every head turned. Rayla adjusted her posture, lifted her chin, and looked at no one in particular. She wasn't speaking to impress them. She was speaking for the record. "I don't want to revisit the past," she said plainly. "You all know it. And if you're honest, you'll admit what was done." A few eyes dropped. "I'm not here for apologies or recognition. I'm here because you don't need another yes man at this table." A pause. "You need someone who remembers what it costs when you treat people as disposable, when you underestimate their silence, when you call contributions support instead of leadership." A longer pause. "I'll be here. I'll listen. I won't interrupt unless what's being said is lazy, dishonest, or destructive." Her voice never rose, but her words cut cleaner than if she'd yelled. Kellen watched her, not with regret, but pride. She stood and left the room before anyone could react. She didn't need their claps. She had her voice. Later that week, Rayla sat on her small back porch, Kyle asleep inside, and Kellen sitting across from her. He handed her a glass of orange soda. She raised an eyebrow. Soda? Since when? Since I remembered it's your guilty favorite. She smirked and sipped it. You handled the board well, he said. They needed to hear it. They did. She glanced over. You didn't flinch when I spoke. I was proud. You said what no one else would. Rayla stayed quiet. I still have feelings for you, Kellen said gently. But I know it's not time. She didn't argue. I want to rebuild trust, slowly, not for a relationship, for co-parenting, for family. If more grows, it'll be your call. Rayla exhaled. I believe you. It was the first time she said that in years. And she meant it. He didn't ask for more, didn't push. He simply stood, said goodnight, and walked down the porch steps. Rayla watched him go, then looked up at the sky. The stars didn't shout. They didn't flicker wildly. They didn't compete. They just shone. Quiet and constant. That was enough. Kellen showed up that morning without warning. No message, no knock. Just the quiet sound of his car engine pulling into the driveway. Rayla saw him through the window and didn't move to open the door. But she didn't turn him away either. She let him stand there. 1 minute, then 2, then 5. He waited. Eventually, she opened the door. Kyle was already dressed, a little hoodie zipped up to his chin. His backpack was by the door, and a yellow star-shaped keychain dangled from it. Something Kellen had given him weeks ago with a quiet, "This means you're brave." Rayla crouched and zipped Kyle's hoodie higher, brushing his cheek. You ready? He nodded. Kellen offered a hand. Kyle stared at it, then slid his own small fingers into his father's without a word. I'll bring him back by 4, Kellen said, low. Rayla nodded. Okay. He hesitated, then leaned down and whispered something to Kyle that Rayla didn't catch. But Kyle smiled. Then they left. She closed the door and leaned her back against it. This time, the silence in the house wasn't heavy. It was full. At exactly 3:57 p.m., Kyle came running through the door, his hands full of colored pencils, a notebook, and a sticky chocolate mustache on his face. He wanted to draw what he saw at the museum, Kellen said, stepping in after him, and apparently eat a brownie the size of his head. Kyle ran to the kitchen to grab water. Rayla raised an eyebrow. I wiped his hands. Mostly. She gave him a look, then quietly handed him a towel. As Kyle rinsed up, Kellen glanced around the space. The plants near the window, the folded blankets, the single chair Rayla always sat in when she needed to think. You made this place calm, he said. I needed calm. I get that now. Rayla turned to him. He wasn't trying to impress her anymore. He wasn't performing. He just stood there, honest, awkward and unpolished. Kellen, she began. He didn't speak. So she did. I'm not angry anymore. He blinked. But I'm not where you are. I know. I've rebuilt pieces of myself. They don't fit the way they used to. Not with you. Not with what we were. He stepped forward slightly. Could we build something new? No expectations, just space to breathe together. Rayla looked at him, then past him. Kyle was in the living room now, sketching a dragon on the floor. She saw the ease on his face, the comfort in his body, and the truth was, she had rebuilt her home, but some parts still missed rhythm, missed warmth. She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she walked to a small drawer by the hallway, pulled out a folded piece of paper, handed it to Kellen. He opened it slowly. It was a letter. From the first week she left him. I never mailed it, she said quietly. But I needed to write it, needed to name what broke. He read every line. Tears touched the edges of his eyes, but none fell. When he finished, he folded it back and handed it to her. I deserved all of that. She nodded once, then stepped forward. She didn't touch him, didn't promise anything, but she looked at him fully. No more grand gestures, she said. If you want to rebuild, show up. Take care of Kyle. Show him that men apologize not with gifts, but consistency. I will. And when I'm ready to sit with you again, not for the past, Not for the pain, but for the now. You'll know. His voice dropped. How? I won't say anything. She smiled faintly. But I'll bring 2 mugs of tea instead of 1. And with that, she stepped back. Kellen didn't fight it. He left quietly, not defeated, but with a kind of peace. That night, as Kyle slept, Rayla stepped outside. The air was crisp. The porch light was soft. She sat on the swing chair, legs curled under her. And for the first time in a long time, her hands didn't shake. Her chest didn't ache. She had chosen stillness, not silence. She had chosen strength, not survival. And she had kept the one thing no one could ever take, her quiet, her voice, her terms. Kellen came back the next day, not with flowers, not with a speech. He brought Kyle's favorite cereal, a book about dinosaurs, and a slow, steady presence. Rayla didn't ask why. He didn't offer a reason. He just played with Kyle, fixed a drawer that kept sticking, and left before dinner. The day after that, he came again, helped Kyle with homework, picked up socks, tightened the leg on the wobbly coffee table. He asked for nothing in return, and Rayla let him stay longer each time. By the 3rd week, Kellen came by with a document, a shared savings plan in Kyle's name. Rayla reviewed it carefully, every line, every clause. No surprises, no conditions, just responsibility, accountability. She signed it. No words, just a pen scratch. One evening, as they finished dinner, Kyle fell asleep on the couch. Kellen stood to leave. Rayla stopped him. Can you carry him to his room? He blinked. Yeah. Of course. He lifted Kyle gently, like he'd done when he was barely 1 year old. No strain, no awkwardness, just quiet muscle memory. When he came back, Rayla was still in the kitchen, rinsing a dish. She didn't speak, but she handed him a mug. 2 teas, 1 for him, 1 for her. They sat in silence, and it was enough. Weeks passed, seasons turned. They didn't announce anything. No declarations, no labels, just rhythms. Trust rebuilt not by grand romance, but by daily respect, by soft presence, by unforced laughter when Kyle tried to imitate Kellen's walk, by co-parenting with ease, not performance, by knowing they didn't owe anyone else a timeline. Then came the day Kyle asked a question as he packed for a school trip. Will both of you come to the class presentation? Rayla and Kellen answered at the same time. Yes. That night, Rayla lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan. The home was still hers. The life was hers. She hadn't surrendered anything. She had shared, on her own terms. Rebuilding hadn't meant returning. It had meant redrawing the lines, keeping what protected her, letting in only what honored her. She reached for the letter Kellen had returned, read it one last time, then tore it gently, piece by piece, letting it fall into the fireplace, not out of rage, but closure, not because she forgot, but because she remembered enough to know she was no longer that woman, the one who begged to be believed, the one who waited for someone to change. She was the woman who rebuilt everything alone and chose who could sit beside her when she no longer had to. She never had to say the word. He knew. And this time, he stayed anyway. If you've ever given someone a second chance, not because they asked for it, but because you had already healed, then this story was for you. Rayla didn't need to shout. She didn't need to make anyone pay. She just rebuilt. Quietly, completely, on her own terms. And when Kellen finally returned, not with grand gestures but with growth, he learned the hardest truth of all. That trust is never owed. It's earned, daily, deliberately, and gently. If you believe peace should never be bargained for, if you believe love should feel like safety, not suspense, if you believe no woman should be erased, ignored, or replaced, then help us share more stories like this. Like the video, comment your favorite moment, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories, where dignity gets the final word. Every time